So my mom turned 64 and I went to visit her. Then the neighbor came and we started talking about politics. He was like, I can't believe God exists. And I was like, sir, why? He told me, because there's so much unjust suffering in the world, like children dying for no reason. Oh, that's a good one. I was like, well, Jesus in history also died, even though he was innocent. Isn't that the story that life always contains also unjust suffering? We're having this conversation in the Netherlands, and as he was looking at me, he told me, well, I used to think like you, but now I don't anymore, because if God is truly almighty, he would have stopped all suffering. I told him then he would have stopped me, and he was like, why? Well, I told him, in my past I've done some wrong things. Why didn't God stop me by then? The discussion ended because my dad was helping this neighbor to fix his bike or something, so he needed to go do that. Then we went inside, my parents and I. We sat around the table and continued the discussion. I told my parents that I forgot to mention one important thing to that, a neighbor which doesn't believe in God anymore because there's so much suffering. Who's there to blame if God doesn't exist? Is it atheism, Darwin's theory of evolution, the fittest and strongest survive? I mean, if people, children, older people are too weak, then it's just a cycle of evolution that continues and no one really cares. So I think God exists because unjust things happen in this world. What I found funny is that this man thought that I was like indoctrinated by Christianity, because he told me, well, I used to think like you. And always in every conversation that I have with someone, and when they start telling I used to think like you, they always think that they are above your thinking, so that their way of viewing the world is the truth. You know what I found also funny is that people get mad about injustice in the world, and then because they're acting like, oh, like this is injustice, the people in that place think that that person that's getting mad about injustice is all of the sudden a just person. But pointing at injustice, I don't think makes you a just person. What do you think? Also, what does believing in God actually mean? I saw this video of this small kid that has cancer, and then this man was interviewing that kid and asking like, why do you still believe in God and have hope for the future, even though right now it seems you're dying of cancer and you don't have long to live? And the kid still chooses to put his faith in God. Why do some people that seem to have no hope for the future still do that, when people on the other side, like this neighbor, I remember his daughter still has a cancer, melanin cancer, like it's a skin cancer disease. I did an interview with her to help collect some donations, so it's the daughter of that neighbor. And if I put myself in his shoes, I can imagine that I wouldn't believe in God because he put my daughter through so much suffering. But why is it so that, I think it's just weird, we blame God for unjust suffering, but why don't we blame like the devil or disease? Or I remember this verse that says we're born in an unjust world, and the children of God that stay positive and keep shining the light, I mean, respect to them, because it's hard to keep shining the light, to stay positive like this kid that has cancer and is dying of it and still chooses to be mentally strong and put his faith in God, while on the other side I can imagine this neighbor of which the daughter has this awful disease. He stops trusting in God because it happens so. These are hard questions to live by, to ask yourself. So can you please tell me how it's possible that on the one hand this little kid that's dying of cancer says, I'm chosen by God to go through this hardship, and on the other side the Dutch neighbor is telling God, I don't trust you anymore because my daughter, although she is alive, I don't like you, God, because you're putting my daughter through this.